This is Journey to Healing. I'm John Euler, and we're in the midst of a series of dealing with grief and loss, but we're setting the stage for how to move forward so that we actually can process grief and loss. One of the things that will keep us stuck is dealing with people that continue to stir the pot so that I can never experience peace, so that I can't grieve those past losses that I need to grieve so that I can move forward, so that I can experience peace. So it is vitally important, if I'm to heal, that I need to be able to have peace in my life. So how do I get peace in my life so that I can heal from things in my past? I have to be able to discern who I'm dealing with in the here and now. Because I may be dealing with people that I shouldn't be dealing with. There's enough in Scripture, and fortunately, there's enough in Scripture to begin to give us a sense of who should I and who should I not be dealing with, whether it's a good use of my time and whether I'm a good steward. Again, thinking in terms of a selfish person, the reason a selfish person is because it benefits them. So I need to discern the extent to which the person is selfish. You can have a small degree of selfishness or a large degree of selfishness. The extent of my interaction with them and the way I'm giving, especially if it has to do with my time, effort, energy, and resources. Again, the New Testament calls those pearls. Jesus called those your pearls. He said, we should not give those to pigs. So I have to be able to discern who it is I'm dealing with and to what extent I should have boundaries. Every selfish person will try to ensure I never figure it out. That's why they're going to go after my intuition. They will try to get me to second guess myself, to question myself, to doubt myself. That's why in one way or another, a selfish person will look you in the eye and tell you, I don't think you're seeing it clearly. I know what it looks like, but it's really not that. So they become the arbiter of truth. And the question is this: are they being truthful? Are they being reliable? Or are they manipulating you? We have to be able to discern. Much of the book of Proverbs, written 3,000 years ago, is all about discernment. Why? Because unlike modern psychology that's come along and said all people are basically good, a biblical worldview says, though people are important and valuable, there's something about us, it's called a sin principle, it's selfishness. And if I let that go, meaning if I give myself permission to become selfish, I will. I have a cat in the background. I don't know if you can, it's cute. It's Mr. Knightley, that's our cat. Discernment will help you identify, and this is why it's so key. Discernment will help you identify the extent to which the pig can help it. It'll help you identify the extent to which the pig can help being a pig, because that's kind of where our minds go. We sense the offense. We sense him being mean, rude, taking and being injurious to us. So the first thing a part of us needs to know is whether or not they can help it. Our intuition can begin to ferret that out. So the first question is, can the pig help being a pig? And then the extent to which they know they're being a pig. So their ability to control themselves. Do they have the ability to control themselves? And are they self-aware enough to know that they're doing what they're doing? Those are the two primary issues in play that we really need to know, because I can guarantee you, with everybody that I work with, those are the two issues that they're really trying to figure out. And that's why part of counseling is simply presenting information. It's simply laying out facts. If somebody in your home is pushing you, if somebody is shoving you, do they know what they're doing? Unless they're absolutely out of it. And then the question is, why are they out of it? If they've been drinking alcohol, they know they shouldn't, so that they get to that point. But if they are insane, then they will be insane both in the house and then out of the house. And then you shouldn't be in there because you don't know what else they're able to do. But if somebody can turn it on and turn it off when it benefits them, then you know they're not crazy. They are selective. And to what extent can they help it? Well, again, if they can turn it on and turn it off, one way to find out is what would happen if somebody saw them do what they were doing? Like if you took a film of it, and that's not a bad idea. Would they be mortified? Would they be shocked? Would they try to grab your camera? Would they say, "What are you doing?" Oh, see, a crazy person won't do that. A crazy person will be very consistent on film or not. If somebody went too far, what does that mean? Let's say somebody actually broke the law. What's breaking the law? If somebody assaults you, they've broken the law, and they know it. And that's why they do that dysfunctional cycle of violence, where they hurt you, and then they're really nice. Why are they doing that? They don't want you to leave, and they also, depending upon the situation, they don't want you to call the police on them. You need to know how much power you have at that moment, by the way. Okay. If you mistake a pig for someone who actually doesn't know what they're doing in terms of their selfishness, you simply invite unnecessary, needless, unproductive, self-imposed pain that simply will harm you and other decent people, which the Lord wants to spare you from, and He wants to spare other people from that. And He wants to free you from being trapped. God doesn't want you to be trapped. He's called us into freedom. He's come to set the prisoners and the captives free. He doesn't want you to be abused. He doesn't want you to be enslaved by a pig, a dog, a fool, and an oppressor. We talked about what are the characteristics of a fool last time. We broke that down. It's important to know. One of the things is they will be progressive in their selfishness. It will always become progressive, and they will be progressively hurtful. Proverbs 26:11 says, "As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness." It doesn't matter how many times you forgive him, because it's not forgiveness, by the way. It's enabling. Forgiveness is impossible unless somebody, through contrition and brokenness and proof of the same, unless somebody is genuinely sorry and works toward changing, they are not sorry. You have to focus on their behavior. Do not focus on their words. Okay? As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. Jesus quoted that. We're aware of that. So do not give what is important or holy or special to dogs, and then do not cast your pearls before swine. It's interesting in 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 22. Do you know how he ends that chapter? He says, do not, or as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool, and a washed pig returns to the mud. Peter quotes from Jesus. And in that chapter, it's not mild, the kind of person he's describing. He's describing people that are really bad and really proficient at manipulating and really involved in church. And nobody really gets it. And that's really bad. That's the problem with the church today. Okay, we have no discernment. We have this big tent theory. We have this, anybody, come one, come all. And there's no standards, will take you as you are. And on the one hand, we want to do that because we want to help people. But in so doing, if I blindly throw open the doors to anyone, guess what I end up inviting? And if I have no means of discerning, so to throw open the doors to anyone without the ability to discern, you have invited the dogs and the pigs and the fools. They're going to come in droves. And then what are you going to do with the decent people that are starting to be abused? Inevitably, you will go easy on the pigs and the dogs and the fools, and you'll tell the survivors to just suck it up. That is not what's supposed to happen in churches. It's supposed to be protective of those that are vulnerable. And that's why so many people don't want to darken the door of a church, because they lived with hypocrites. They lived with pigs and fools. They saw this stuff go on in church when they were kids, and they don't want anything to do with it. Okay, so we need to know how much of a pig that we're dealing with. How can we distinguish between somebody that is well-intentioned but just has a few minor issues, needs to grow, versus somebody that is morphing into a piglet versus a full-blown pig? So really, how can you tell between a piglet and a full-blown pig? By understanding the importance of discernment and degrees of selfishness, I'll be able to know how much grace and truth to bring to bear. That is the operating principle that must be involved in any relationship for it to be healthy and to protect others. So we're going to look at what are the degrees of piggishness, what are the degrees of selfishness, and how much grace and truth, meaning to what extent should I have boundaries? We have a tendency, especially if we've been raised to question our own intuition. We will kind of stuff. We'll stuff. We won't be aware of, since we can't totally discern and trust ourselves, then we're going to excuse away and we'll tolerate stuff until it gets to what point? The boiling point, then we blow up. That may take the form of really blowing up, which actually shouldn't take place, because then what happens? Then you've given the fool and the pig something to really point at. So they poke and they prod and they make it miserable to where somebody who has been stuffing now explodes. And if you give a pig something to point at, that's legitimate, because if you explode, you probably were hurtful in what you said or did. Now he can tie you up in knots. So the way out of that, by the way, is to not stuff anymore. So we're going to kind of help you with that right now. And then own your part. And then don't do it again in this. And here's how you're not going to do it again. Because you're going to be able to start implementing boundaries sooner rather than later. If you wait too late to implement boundaries, the pig will be, I forget what they call it, like gorilla hog or something. There's some wild boars out in some areas of the Carolinas, I think, or I don't know, Tennessee or somewhere. I've seen them. These are massive things. They almost look like dinosaurs. I forget the term, like Godzilla. I think that was it, Godzilla hog. Some of you started dating guys that were little piglets. And over the years, they've morphed into Godzilla hogs. Well, the only thing you can do with a Godzilla hog is shoot it. What it means, I'm sorry. I don't know that, caveat, that's a metaphor, okay? So how do you know? How can we discern to what extent somebody's selfish so we can discern how to respond as far as the balance of truth and grace? You have to view it on a continuum, kind of 1 to 10, starting out small. Does every single thing require a boundary? Require truth? No. You have, let's say on the scale of 1 is very minor in terms of selfishness. 10 is the gorilla hog, or I forget what it's called, but anyways, it's super pig. Okay, that's going to be very dangerous and hurtful. I'm laughing, but it's not a laughing matter. Okay, some of you have lived with that kind of person, and you have emotional, you have psychological, and physical scars. It's not funny. These are the kind of people that have threatened you. These are the kind of people that have done all sorts of horrible things. And the question is, why are you still with them? Unless you risk, you're never going to know what's true. And if you know beyond a shadow of a doubt from some of the things I've said that you're dealing with a professional grade pig, you don't have any doubts anymore. And so you need to simply begin to make a plan of cutting your losses and moving on. Okay? Because you're not going to change a pig. Why? He's morphed. And he has no conscience any longer, quite frankly. Okay, so a scale of 1 to 10, minor selfishness to major selfishness. Human error all the way to major pig. So the first category is actually human error. Human error does not require a lot of truth. Why? Because we need more grace in that case, because we all do stuff. Okay, what is human error? And the Bible speaks to that. It is inadvertent and unintentional. And that's where we are all at, in a way. For those that are halfway decent, we wouldn't intentionally want to hurt someone. In this life, we're going to have bad days. Hopefully, we're just leaving it at that, meaning we're not going to continue to impact somebody because we have a conscience, because we care. So we're all doing inadvertent and unintentional things. That's called human error. That kind of person that does human error, they will be quick to apologize and will be mindful and work to amend their behavior because they care more about others than themselves. So with that kind of person, if it's just at a level 1, you probably won't even need to bring it up to them. They will probably bring it up to you first. They'll bring it up to you by the next morning or the next afternoon. They'll give you a call and they'll say, you know what, hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to work on that. And that's the important piece. Right? They're mindful, and they're not just going to chalk it off to a bad day. They're going to begin to try to figure out what's going on. And it can be some very difficult things. There could be a situation where they're going to have to go confront a boss. A lot of risk. But Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. Because it may seem crazy. If I go and confront this guy, I'm going to get fired, and so we then take matters into our own hands and we try to work it from there, and then they keep piling on and we keep stuffing, and that is not helpful, and that's how the cycle gets going. Okay, someone that simply does human error, they need 99% grace and 1% just a little bit of truth. That's my subjective determination right there. So 99% grace, a little bit of truth. So when they apologize, you can say, you know what, I appreciate that. And so you've acknowledged that there's the truth, but they are self-managing, they're self-monitoring, and they're self-correcting because they will self-correct as they respond to their conscience. Now, what happens if somebody doesn't care to respond to their conscience? Or they've been sort of programmed a little bit because of family tradition or something to ignore it, but they still have a conscience, by the way, but we'll make a little bit of quote-unquote allowance. Okay, so we're going to say human error is like scale of 1, maybe we're right on the border of 1 to 2. We're now going to have what are called faults, flaws, and quirks, and some occasional rough edges. Okay, that's a little bit more because this is going to be more than just a bad day. This is sort of a little bit of a characteristic now. Okay, if they're still self-reflective, if they have a conscience, and at this level they do, they're starting to realize that this is harming other people. They're making other people uncomfortable. They're kind of coming home with an attitude and they care more about others than themselves. And so they begin to realize, you know what, I really need to make a resolution about this. Okay? They need about 80 to 90% grace and about 10 to 20% truth. The 10 to 20% truth is the person they were offending or hurting or oppressing does need to say, you know what, I do appreciate that. Because when you've done that, it really has so the feedback now is becoming a little more definitive, but the person is self-correcting. Colossians 3, verse 13 says this, make allowance for and be patient with one another's faults. That is that category. That's why we can be patient, because we know they're growing and we all need to. Some of you came out of some very challenging things. You need patience. We need to be patient with one another. The next category, now we're kind of moving up to a 3 or 4-ish, maybe even, it depends, but 3 and 4, low-grade selfishness, which is now habitual. This also includes occasional manipulation, stubbornness, and willfulness. It's moved beyond a habit, and now this is a character trait. Not a good one. We are never called to cut ourselves a break when it comes to selfishness. So hopefully my conscience is going to begin to trouble me enough. This is actually in Matthew chapter 5, where it says, if I'm at the altar presenting my gift and I suddenly remember I'm about in this category, I'm a little slow, this has been going on a while. Jesus says, I need to take care of this, okay? So again, 60 to 80% grace, 20 to 40% truth. Here's a verse that applies to somebody in this category. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Why? Because in this category, there's going to have to be more of a dialogue. The person that was injured or on the receiving end of this, not because they're overly sensitive, okay, this has gone on for probably months now. There needs to be a talk. We need to help this person move beyond where they're at. and spur one another on to love and good works. First is the iron sharpening iron. We're kind of chipping off some rough edges now, but if that doesn't work, now we're kind of moving on a scale of 1 to 10. We're probably now at about a 4, if somewhere in there. If I have to apply a spur to someone, now we got an issue. Now it's moving to medium grade selfishness. So intentional, they're intentional about what they're doing, meaning now they know. And it's becoming their character. This is where a lot of people are at, meaning having somebody like this in their life. How long are you going to permit it? Because you're actually now beyond spurring one another on to love and good works. You've tried, you've talked to them, they're refusing. This is a consistent pattern on their part, and they're not open to feedback. That's why it's medium grade selfishness that's growing. Okay? They also can become like this. They are demeaning. As a matter of fact, this is up to about a 5. They think they are the important one and view you as secondary in terms of level of importance. They are quarrelsome and argumentative. They are in Matthew 5 who demeans another person and calls them an idiot. How much truth and grace? It's now shifted. Much less grace, about 80% truth. Why? Because now they're starting to morph into a pig. Titus 3 says, if people are causing division among you, give a first and second warning, and after that, have nothing to do with them. Now, I'm not recommending that in a home right now, but think about that. That's pretty rigid in a way. That's almost zero tolerance. Okay, so warn them if somebody's causing division, warn them once or twice, and after that, have nothing to do with them. We need to shorten this process, not so much toward divorce, but separation. Okay, for people, and continuing the verse. After that, have nothing to do with them. For people like that have turned away from the truth, and their own sins condemn them. We have for too long been tolerating people that are morphing into pigs. Paul himself says, right? Warn them once, warn them twice. Other than that, don't have anything to do with it. Now, again, I don't recommend that in a home like right away, but after a certain amount of time, we have to begin to implement stronger boundaries. Then we've got, and here it is, professional grade malignant selfishness. Because the previous category is probably up to about a 6. Actually, that's in a 6 and a 7. 5, 6, medium grade selfishness. If somebody doesn't turn it around, and now if people have done it right, they've brought it to their attention time and time and time again, so there's no doubt. That's why Paul says their own sins condemn them. Okay, it's right in front of their face. Now they've morphed into a professional grade pig who is malignant and selfish. And this is the kind of person that Jesus says, do not cast your pearls before swine. This degree is constant and continuous. They become intentional, purposeful, calculating, strategic, unrelenting, and perpetual. Some of you have lived with this kind of Godzilla hog for way too long, and you've seen it build, and now you're living with the consequences. It is time. The Lord is calling you into freedom. Do not stay any longer. It is not nice. It is not loving. You are staying because of fear. The Lord's opening up the Red Sea for you. It's fearful, but He promised that He will walk through the valley of the shadow of death with you. He wants you out of slavery. He wants you out of that kind of bondage. Okay? So when He makes a way, begin the process of planning. Okay? This pig, they genuinely view you as less than, and they are superior to you. They do not just say hurtful things, but they intend to hurt you. Their motivation is to take what you have, use you for all you're worth, for as long as you're willing to play by their rules. After that, they will ensure you pay for having the nerve not to remain their emotional spittoon, their super-duper pooper scooper, as we talked about last time, and their slave. There is a movie that is very powerful. The movie Cinderella. Some of you can relate to Cinderella. Watch how she's treated.
I thought breakfast was ready.
Oh, it is, madam. I'm only mending the fire.
Future, can we not be called until the work is done?
As you wish.
Ella, what's that on your face?
Madam? It's ash from the fireplace.
Do clean yourself up.
You'll get cinders in our tea. I've got a new name for her. Cinderella. I didn't bear to look so dirty. Oh, dirty Ella. Cinderella. That's what we'll call you.
Oh, girls, you're too clever. Who's this for? Is there someone we've forgotten?
It's my place.
Oh, it seems too much to expect you to prepare breakfast, serve it, and still sit with us. Wouldn't you prefer to eat when all the work is done, Ella? Or should I say Cinderella?
Cinderella. Names have power, like magic spells. And of a sudden, it seemed to her that her stepmother and stepsisters had indeed transformed her into merely a creature of ash and toil.
God did not call you to be somebody's slave like that. If you have somebody in your life like that, or some others, if you have wicked stepsisters, or a wicked stepmother, so to speak, it is not good stewardship. It is not noble, and it is not nice to continue like that. You're simply feeding pigs, and you are enabling them to think that it is okay, with impunity, to treat people that way. And it is not. And how are they ever going to get that message? Unless you begin to deliver that message in a polite but firm way by establishing boundaries. And we will pick it up at this point next time, where we will talk about how to implement some of those boundaries. Until next time, I'm John Euler, and this is Journey to Healing.
You've been listening to Journey to Healing, sponsored by SurvivorSupport.net. We trust you've been helped by the information our host, John Euler, has shared. To donate to this ministry, schedule a personal consultation with John, or to arrange a professional training for your church or organization with John, simply visit our website. On behalf of Survivor Support, we look forward to hearing from you and to have you join us next time on Journey to Healing.